Hello, True Health Seeker, and welcome to another exciting episode of the Learn True Health podcast. I'm excited for you to hear my guest today. She's actress, author, and holistic health and lifestyle expert, Mariel Hemingway. At age 14, she was nominated for a Golden Globe for her breakout role in the 1976 movie Lipstick. She was nominated for several awards for her performance in the 1979 Woody Allen movie Manhattan. Through the years, she's acted or produced in over 50 movies and TV shows. She starred in and co-produced videos on yoga and holistic living, and she's published several books focusing on mental and emotional health. Mariel is the granddaughter of the famous author Ernest Hemingway. Having survived 7 suicides in her family, Mariel has always focused on shining a light on how we can live an emotionally, mentally, and physically healthy lifestyle. More recently, Mariel was in the documentary The Earthing Movie. Now, to watch that documentary, join the Learn True Health Facebook group. We were given permission to host it in our Facebook group because it hasn't come out yet for the world to watch, because right now it is going through the festival, the movie documentary independent film festival circuit. And so it's in our Facebook group. You just join the Learn True Health Facebook group, and right there pinned to the top is the entire documentary. It's a wonderful, very fascinating documentary on earthing and grounding. And in our interview today, Mariel shares great mental, emotional, and physical health tips, but she also shares her wonderful experiences with grounding and using the grounding mats that Clint Ober created. And if you'd like to get one of these grounding mats that we talk about today for your pets, for your children, for yourself, for your computer, while working on your computer, while watching TV, while cooking in the kitchen, you can stand on one, or while sleeping in your bed, then go to the website learntruehealth.com/grounding. That's learntruehealth.com/grounding. And for the month of October, use coupon code MH at checkout to get free shipping on any of your orders to the US. So if you're within the US, the United States of America, you can get free shipping when you go to learntruehealth.com/grounding and use the coupon code MH, as in Mariel Hemingway, for the month of October. Excellent. Well, join in the Facebook group just so you can join the discussion. Every single episode, we have wonderful discussions. The listeners love to ask questions, and we all jump in and help each other. It's a wonderful community. If you haven't joined already, I'd love to see you there. Enjoy today's episode and have a fantastic rest of your day. Welcome to the Learn True Health podcast. I'm your host, Ashley James. This is episode 382. I feel so honored to have with us today Mariel Hemingway, who is such an inspiration to me. I just finished watching her documentary, Running from Crazy. I love her message, and I know you will as well. Mariel, it's such a pleasure to have you on the show today.
Well, thank you for having me. It's very nice of you to say those things. Anyway.
Absolutely. Now, coming from Canada, I didn't really know your grandfather a lot, Ernest Hemingway, other than I was forced to read his books in high school. And then when I went to Florida, my parents had a condo down there, as many Canadians love to do. We love to go down to Florida and be snowbirds when we're older. And I kept seeing 6-fingered cats, and they're like, it's the Hemingway cats. And I just thought that was the coolest thing. But other than that, I didn't know your family until I watched the grounding documentary that we actually have a copy of it in the Learn True Health Facebook group, and everyone's been loving it. And so you were in that documentary. That's when I first saw you. And I just was like, wow, I love your mission around helping people with mental health and physical health. And you are such an advocate for mental health. And that's something that is still sort of taboo to talk about. And it's just amazing that we are, we're almost 2020, and it's still kind of taboo to talk about mental health. And I really want to just blow those doors wide open and allow people to feel healthy and normal to discuss when they're depressed, when they have suicidal thoughts, when they have, emotional issues going on, that it's okay. It's safe and okay now in this day and age that we can open up the discussion, and that'll be very cathartic for all of us.
100%. I mean, my sort of mission and passion in life, as you know, because you've watched way too many movies now about me, but not completely about me. But my mission really is to just, I tell my story not because I think my story is so great, but because I think my story is so actually pretty normal in the sense that we all have one. We all come from something that's not perfect. People were unhappy, or there were issues, or there was addiction, or there was this, or there was that, because we're human beings. And so by telling my story, it sort of gives other people permission to tell their own. And I do believe that the journey towards recovery in all kinds of mental health, whether it's addiction, whether it's anxiety, whatever it is, the journey towards that is the telling of our stories, to make it okay that we're not okay sometimes, and that sharing that with other people enables them to feel like, oh my God, I'm not alone. Because the worst thing about mental health issues is that people feel isolated and alone, and that's very scary. I'm actually hosting and producing a television show about the prevention of suicide for teenagers.
Wow.
Time Magazine is my producing partner. And because I want to create a platform where kids, everybody, but starting out with kids, because they don't know that energy changes, that, what's a problem today, tomorrow actually won't be. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? But we don't live in that world. We live in a world that is very isolating, even though we have connections to 8 billion people and all of their problems. And, we know what's going on in the Middle East and in Russia and this and that and the other thing. People have never felt more lonely and alone, even though they're connecting on Facebook and Instagram and all these different places. And that's fun, but it should be thought of for what it is. It is not real connection. It is not a place to really share ideas. It's kind of why I love podcasts. Podcasts are so wonderful because you really get to have a real conversation with somebody and exchange ideas, and you can hear people's passion. You can feel, you know what I mean? To me, those things are important. I think sharing our stories is really a first step in finding some sense of recovery. And recovery is different for everybody. And it entails everything you do. It's not just talking. It's also about eating. It's also about drinking water. It's also about meditation. It's also about something we're going to talk a lot about today. It's also about earthing and grounding. I mean, there's so many elements to making your life balanced. It's everything you do. And nobody knows, not nobody, but so many people, and it sounds like your audience is they're super informed and they're in the health and wellness field. And then there are those that are like, what do I do? But there's a lot of people out there that absolutely don't realize that it's everything. Our life and finding balance, joy, and happiness is about everything you do.
Oh, I love that you said exactly that, because I have a question from one of our listeners, and that just what you just said leads perfectly into her question. I posted in the Facebook group, Learn to Health Facebook group, if anyone wanted to ask you a question. Everyone was just like, really, oh, I'm so excited to hear that interview, and they didn't, I can't wait for you to publish it. They didn't have any questions, and then Daniela just posted this question right before we got on Skype, and I'm like, this is so perfect. And I think she's going to be the voice for us, for everyone listening, because I mean, her question is so universal. But of course, I feel when I read it, I felt her isolation. And so it's going to be great. She says, I've been listening to your podcast for years, as well as many others. I do so while getting the house family ready, driving, or any time that she can put earbuds in, basically, she says. While fabulous information and one-of-a-kind access to a large variety of topics, I'm struggling to understand how all the recommended healthy home cooking, food, shopping, drinking, sleeping routines, exercise, And caring for our kids, self, life partners can be practiced in a real world that we live in. Some of us are super busy and stressed, stay-at-home parents with or full-time jobs, taking care of kids, homeschooling, etc., while the rest of us have full-time jobs, business, traveling, getting home at 7 p.m. after leaving the house early 5 days a week, just with crazy schedules and running errands, and then also trying to spend time, enjoying their family. She says, recently, I'm feeling quite frustrated listening to all the lifestyle recommendations, and she's having this dilemma managing a busy household while working full time. So her question is, she says, how can we make it practical for families living in the real world without the means of having personal chefs and grocery shoppers and house cleaners, staff, and nannies on payroll? How can they, if they only have 3 hours a day to themselves to play with kids, exercise, cook and clean and shop and make sure they get to bed by 10, how can they do it all? And she also shares that she feels like some of these big purchases, like she wants to buy organic mattresses for her whole family, but it's really unaffordable to do all these big things. And then she is left feeling like she's not doing enough for her family. And,
Right.
and in that, I mean, she doesn't say that she's depressed or anxious, but I can hear the anxiety. I can hear the fear that she's not good enough, or the fear that she's not, that no matter what she does, it's not enough, because we're left juggling 500 plates. Now, you are a wonderful mother of 2 daughters, and you have been in over 30 movies, you've published books, like you are on the go. But what I got from watching one of your documentaries is that, like, you always got, water in your hand or kombucha in your hand, or you're always doing these little things just to make sure you're taking care of yourself. If you have a minute, you're like in a yoga pose, you're jumping on the trampoline. Right. And then I would see you do things like you'd be like playing with your life partner on the trampoline. So it's like, okay, you're doing exercise, de-stressing, fun, and you're also connecting with your partner. And so it would be like this multitasking. So I saw that you just integrated little things into this really, really busy life. But I'd love for this podcast to be dedicated to Daniela and all the listeners that feel like they're in her shoes today. How can we best help these listeners who are so busy to be able to feel at the end of this episode like they are good enough. They are absolutely doing an amazing job. And how can we help them to integrate some great life strategies as well?
Well, wow. I still remember, I mean, my daughters are grown up now, but I still remember the days of, and by the way, I just want to preface this to say that even though I'm Mariel Hemingway, and, that's a very big name and shoes to fill or whatever that means, but I understand what it means to be a mom. I never had a chef or a personal trainer or somebody to go out and do whatever and take care of my house and do all that stuff. I was pretty much like everybody else. I was trying to juggle all of those things. I'm not saying, oh, poor me. I'm just saying that the reality is I do understand that anxiety. I do understand the overwhelm that life presents itself, because there's only so many hours in the day. And I remember when the babies were no longer needing me 24/7, and I got those 3 hours, I found somebody that would help me so that I could go out and spend 3 hours to go for a hike or do whatever I needed to do for myself. And it was in those early years when life was incredibly busy. I was doing a television series called Civil Wars. I was playing an attorney, and it was really hard. And I worked way too many hours. But it was about really focusing on self-care in a way. I had to really schedule everything. So when I said, meditation is a big and important thing to me, and I hear in Danielle's sort of kind of reaching out, I hear that I don't have enough time. I don't have time to do these things. And what I would say to people, I wrote a book called Healthy Living from the Inside Out. And in that book, I talk about really, it's the simple thing. If you want to change the way that you eat, you know what I mean? If you want to start eating organic, change your breakfast. Start with one meal. Don't change your whole, don't make your husband do the same thing as you, or don't make, just you start taking care of you, change one meal, see how you feel, see if that makes you feel differently, you have more energy, you feel differently. You just, all of a sudden it's like, wait, that makes a difference in my life. So maybe I'm going to try lunch too. And then maybe I'm going to share with the family. I think it's better to, instead of looking at life as this big, overwhelming thing, take small bites of it. You know what I mean? And decide that I'm going to create a little corner of our bedroom or the living room that is just dedicated to my own, I call it sacred space. When I go to a hotel room and I'm doing a job, I create a little sacred space in the corner, whether, for me, it's meditation, whatever, it's kind of, my thing, because I need that to ground me and, emotionally, spiritually ground me. And it's about doing small things. So when I started grounding, for instance, which is one of the most profound and healing things that you can do for your body, mind, and spirit, it's unreal. I started slow. I went out for 20 minutes and I complained and thought it hurt. It was like a pain in the ass about it. But now it's like we just got back from a 2-hour barefoot hike in the mountains on a trail. And, I stepped on some sharp rocks and I was like, but it's changing my life. But I didn't get there overnight. It's about doing small things, seeing how they feel, and realizing that you get to make the choice on if you're going to extend that into your life more. And also, as a mother, we get to choose what our kids eat for the most part, and we can make little changes in their lives, not big ones, because sometimes that causes so much havoc. That you just start small. And also being the example is huge. If you start doing these things, all of a sudden your partner goes, why do you look so happy? Or why do you look so rested? Because or whatever. And you just keep showing up, taking care of yourself. And even if it's only for a couple hours a day, those, 1 to 3 hours are yours to choose what's going to make you feel full and more yourself. Because I get that feeling of overwhelm. And even though I have tons of tools and I've worked a long time, I get overwhelmed. I have moments of panic, about things like whatever, financial stuff comes up and you worry. And yet when you somebody sent me this beautiful quote from Rumi about staying in your patience and allowing life to come to you, because what you want is actually coming towards you anyway. But when you're seeking it out and you're in this place of frustration and anxiety. I should read the quote instead of bastardizing.
Oh no, I love it. I love because you're helping us process it. But because I'm sitting there in it with you going, yeah, I'm imagining what I want in life is coming towards me. But if I'm so anxious and worried it's not gonna happen, all that anxiety I'm creating, it's like I'm delaying it from coming to me.
Yes. It's just the way it's just by, and sitting in our patience, it's easier said than done. But I'm going to be really super honest with you. I was in a massive panic just 3 days ago. And a friend of mine, Clint Ober, who has sort of been the master behind kind of rediscovering earthing and how important grounding is to every human being. And I kind of reached out to him and he sent me that quote. And it is, so let me read it to you just because I think it's so important. And I think it was so clear. And I did it. That's what was the coolest thing. I could feel it. I read it. And then first I read it and it didn't really register because I was pissed and in a panic. And then I read it again and I went, Oh, so let me read it. Okay, so it's when I run after what I think I want, my days are a furnace of stress and anxiety. If I sit in my own place of patience, what I need flows to me and without pain. From this, I understand that what I want also wants me, is looking for me, attracting me. There is a great secret here for anyone who can grasp it. And that's by Rumi.
Oh,
And,
beautiful.
how beautiful is that and simple. And so I got out of my stupid head and I sat in I sat down and I couldn't meditate because my mind was all over the place. And I sat down on my meditation cushion and I just thought, where is my patience? And I kind of I just took I took 3 deep breaths and I thought, help me find that place of patience. And I can feel myself kind of settle into who I am. And I got it. The quote made sense to me. And I realized that things were coming towards me. And so this desperate search or reaching out and frantic anxiety that I was feeling was just a thing. It wasn't a real thing. And it really isn't who I am. So I don't know if that's at all helpful or just a lot of woo-woo.
It's so helpful.
Anyway, I really like it.
Can you read it again? Because like you said, it took you reading it twice for it to sink in. Can you read it again so it can sink in for us?
100%. Okay. When I run after what I think I want, my days are a furnace of stress and anxiety. If I sit in my own place of patience, what I need flows to me and without pain. From this, I understand that what I want also wants me, is looking for me, attracting me. This is a great secret here for anyone who can grasp it. And that's Rumi.
Beautiful. Thank you. I love that Clint Ober gave you that quote. I had Clint on the show. That's why you're here, because Clint was such an awesome guest, and him and his team were like, yeah, we've got another great guest for you. Are you ready for it? So Clint's amazing. I love the grounding movie. I'm sitting here at my desk with the grounding mat, the kind that they sell for computers to work at the computer.
Yeah.
I'm sitting with my bare feet on it. And for those who can't have bare
me
feet at
too.
work, you can put it on your desk and have your wrists on it. And it's totally low key, like no one knows what it is.
And also putting it underneath your computer kind of eliminates a lot of the EMFs that we get from looking at our computer. So that's powerful too.
Yeah, and it's wide enough that you could move it in a position where your laptop could be on top of it and your hands could be on it, or it could be under the laptop and under your hands. But yeah, I love it actually. Yeah. I really feel a difference when it's plugged in versus not plugged in. I know, someone could get under the desk, say, okay, is it plugged in or not? And quiz me. I can feel it. And that's really interesting to me. Yes.
It's crazy. I think crazy good, because Bobby's my partner. He was in the movie with me, and he's been grounding for years. He was grounding a long time ago, and he would try to get me, and I would do 10 minutes down our high. So I'd be like, whatever, it's hurts my feet. And then I really got into it. But we were saying, since really being devoted and dedicated to it for the past year, how more really intuitive you are. You really get this sense, when you think of animals and you think of, you think that they know kind of when the weather's changing and they sense things, and they know when people are coming down the driveway. They know, they just know things. We think of animals as having a sixth sense. The reason they have a sixth sense is because they're connected to the earth. They're connected to the vibrations of the earth all the time, all day long, except for, indoor cats or something that can never go outside in the city. But for the most part, they're connected. They've got that connection to the earth. And as human beings, when we connect to the earth, because we are electrical beings, just like those animals, we get that vibration. We start to have more intuitive sense. We have a sense of what's going to happen. I mean, Bobby and I are astonished at how we kind of know things now. It's like, wow. And we don't think of ourselves as psychic. It's really just like there's a knowing that happens when you connect with the earth. And it's incredible. And so I'm so excited to be on this mission to kind of help that movement move forward because, like I was talking about in the beginning, you know, mental health has so much to do with being grounded. You know, getting rid of inflammation in the body also gets rid of inflammation in the brain. And neuroinflammation is probably the largest percent of why people suffer from anxiety, depression. You know, why there are teens that are committing suicide and all kinds of people committing suicide because there's inflammation in the brain. So we can get rid of that by stepping outside in the grass or by buying your grounding mat for underneath your computer or at your feet at your desk or buying and it's not about selling something, but buying a grounding sleep mat to sleep on. I'm telling you, it's changed my sleep.
Mm-hmm.
I sleep so deeply. And I was also getting to the age where I was like, what's going on? I would wake up and I'd be hot and I'd be this. I was like, what's going on? And ever since, I was not into it. But ever since grounding and using the grounding mat, I'm like, I sleep so well. I sleep so deeply and I don't wake up all night. I don't go to the bathroom 28,000 times. Like, I just sleep deeply and I wake up and it gets you connected to the circadian rhythm of the earth. And we're electrical beings that are supposed to be connected to the earth. And so I just love that we're rediscovering our birthright. And our birthright is to have joy and happiness in our lives. And the way that we have that is by being more connected to nature, to where we come from. You know, I just think it's super important. Bobby likes to say, man thinks it has become an innovative capitalist. He thinks he's smarter than nature, which is an oxymoron because we are nature. How can you be smarter than yourself? So we have to reconnect to who we are. So we realize, oh, I'm this. I'm not that. I'm not a greedy, like, power hunt, although, you know, everything in our world says differently. But, you know, us as human beings and probably everybody listening here, we're just like, we're connected. And the more we can connect to nature, the more we connect to each other, the more we can make change in our own lives, and we can change the world in a good way. I really believe that. I really believe by the simple things that we do, whether it's changing your breakfast and taking 5 minutes to meditate. And that's why I say, you know, meditation is important. Start with 5 minutes. Don't put lots of pressure on yourself. Don't say, oh, God, I have to sit down for an hour. Well, that's ridiculous. We don't live those lives. We're not monks who live in Tibet. It'd be nice, but we don't have that kind of time. So you make time. You make little amounts of time, and you hold them precious. When you hold time preciously in your hands or in your heart, you know, you create time that makes a difference in your life. I've often talked about exercise. If you exercise with intention, and it can be any movement, hiking, biking, swimming, yoga, whatever it is, it can be anything, qigong, tai chi, blah, blah, blah. It can be anything that you enjoy, dancing. If you do 20 minutes with intention, it's like doing an hour of just, you know, rambling around, listening to all kinds of things on an iPod. Not that that's not fun once in a while, but with intention, you make a difference in your life. So getting back to Danielle, it's like, if you can do 20 minutes of focus, intention of taking care of yourself, it's going to be like an hour. It's going to be like an hour and a half because that's showing self-care and also self-love. And that's huge.
I love it. And 5 minutes of meditating for a newbie feels like an hour. So it's like you're getting an hour of meditation, you know, but you're condensing it into 5 minutes, and you can set an alarm. Do it first thing. So here's the thing. Here's what I would do. Here's what I do. Not every day, but I do it. get up first thing in the morning. Usually it's pretty quiet in the house. I sit on the potty. We call it a potty because I have a 40-year-old. And I set an alarm on my phone for 5 minutes and I meditate on the potty. I'm like, it's my me time. I got to just like get my head grounded. So I'm multitasking, but I am going inward. And I'm clearing my head and I'm listening to my inner voice and I'm taking, deep breaths and I'm just being with myself and centering myself and getting a good intention for the day. And my life's chaos too, but I grab these little things. And I love what you said about starting the day with a healthy breakfast, because I have found dieting. I've been on over 30 diets. I have tried everything. And anytime I'm trying one, it's like, well, am I doing it right? Is this good? Is this the right one for me? And, all those doubts come up. And what I've really discovered for me, the whole food plant-based diet for me, for my body, is the most healing. And I've really, I had to go through the gauntlet of trying everything to listen to my own intuition and my body and figure out what I needed. But I had to go through all those things that weren't the right way to eat for me to find what was the right way to eat. And I just started this habit a week ago and I am loving it. And it's exactly what you said. I started with breakfast. I steam 1 pound of vegetables, which sounds like a lot, but then when you're done, you're like, I feel full, but I don't feel over full and I feel really good. And I eat 1 pound of vegetables. That's it for breakfast. And then if I'm hungry later, it could be an hour later, it could be 4 hours later. I'll have some potatoes, maybe some more vegetables, maybe some lentils. And then I'm like good to dinner. And I'm shocked. It's 6 p.m. and I'm like starting to get hungry. And I'm like, oh my gosh. Like I just ate 2 pounds of vegetables today and some potatoes and some beans. And my body is buzzing. And I actually have more energy now from that one habit of starting just eating a really good breakfast. And that kind of compounded.
Yeah.
After that breakfast, I'm like, I'm on a roll. Let's do another pound of vegetables. Let's go. Let's see how many I can get into me. And it was easy. And today was fresh vegetables, but the last week has been just like frozen vegetables because I wanted to clear out the freezer. Giant Costco sized bags of organic vegetables. I'm like, all right, we are steaming vegetables, and it takes no prep time at all to throw those vegetables into the steamer and go. The big bamboo steamer.
Yeah.
It's the little things, but I love that starting with a great breakfast to help set you up for the day.
And then it doesn't overwhelm you,
yes.
When you start slow like that. And what I love about what you said, and you were so mindful about, everybody's body is different and what works for everybody is different. What works for me doesn't work for you. Like when you say you've done every diet, I think I'm probably older than you since you have a 4-year-old. I have done every diet. I mean, I've been microbiotic. I was vegetarian. I was vegan for 20 years. I did all fat. I did no fat. I've done so many like ways of eating. I ate fruit, nothing but fruit for an entire year. And then I would have a potato at night. I mean, it was insanity because I was on this mission to like figure myself out. And it was a little bit manic, but I've gotten to a place where the way that I eat now is perfect for me.
Yeah.
And it's not always perfect I am much more plant-based than my boyfriend, who is, he's an O blood type. He actually needs me, but we're very conscious about the meat that we eat. It has to be humanely treated. We're just very aware of the world in which we live because, it's a world where you have to be mindful of all these things. But one diet does not fit all because one size is not for all. We're all different sizes. We're different. We come from different backgrounds. Everybody finds their sweet spot that is right for them. Our thing is just eat real food.
Yeah.
Eat real food. Don't eat processed food. Don't eat food that you can't pronounce. Don't eat food that, don't eat, scrubbed white food. I think any pretty scrubbed white food is probably not good for you unless it's jicama or something. I don't know. But you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. I had a naturopath on the show that said, she said, it's like we're addicted to baby food. If you think about it, flour, bread, pizza, pasta. It's all kind of this chewy consistency. We like this mouth feel. It's like baby food, this mouth feel of mushy, soft. And I thought it
Yeah.
hit me. I'm like, you are so right. We're so addicted to that. Like, I want that fatty, hyper palatable, fatty, salty, mushy feel in my mouth, like we get from pasta and pizza
Mm-hmm.
and bread. And we're just sort of running around addicted to the drug called food or highly processed food. But coming back to real food is that nourishing point that then helps our mental health and our mental clarity.
100%.
I'd love to know a bit about your story in relationship to your health. It seems as though when we watch all of your films, you look so healthy on the outside your entire life. Have you struggled with any health issues? Have you overcome any medical or health issues?
I have overcome some not major medical issues because I was so concerned about health literally my mother had cancer when I was growing up. My father had heart disease and my entire family, they were addicts. So my mission in life was to be healthy. Now, when I say I did every diet, I was doing every diet because I was so desperate to find something that would actually relieve my brain because I was so scared. I was so scared that I was going to wake up addicted or crazy or have cancer or something or commit suicide. I come from 7 suicides. I thought, so my mission was like, I got to be healthy because maybe if I can control my body, that will control my mind and I won't be scared anymore. So my issue was much more, I definitely suffered from depression. And I think that my sort of extremism in quote unquote health, as far as like dieting, meaning doing all these extreme things, I think that was part of the reason why I stayed depressed, because it was all like when I did fruit all year, I was basically eating sugar and drinking a ton of coffee, but it was organic, so I thought I was healthy. A ton of coffee or tea because I was depressed. But I was depressed because I was kind of eating this imbalanced sort of too much sugar, and then I would go to another extreme and eat nothing but air popcorn. I mean, I've done so many strange things. I was looking for something that would make me healthy. So anyway, all of those extreme dieting things did shut my thyroid down. I think a lot of women suffer from thyroid issues. And that was the only thing that I've really had to deal with. But here's an interesting discovery. Since really being dedicated to my grounding and earthing and what have you, I've taken Armour thyroid now for probably 20 years. I am on half a dose and may be able to get completely off it if I can, because of the grounding, which is pretty extraordinary. So there was that issue and really depression. I was really suffering from depression, but a lot of that has come full circle. And because I have a tremendous self-awareness because I've done so many extreme things, not because I'm a genius. Actually, I'm really slow to learn, but because I've done so many different things, I've come to this place where I really know what's right for me. I mean, I'm 57 years old. I know what works for me. I know what makes me feel healthy and well. And I know how to make my brain come into a better place, whether it's reading that Rumi quote now or whatever it is. I have opened myself up to receiving the messages that I need to learn, and also listening to my physical body and listening to what it needs, whether it's minerals, whether it's, all those things, the microbiome, really making sure that I've got a healthy gut. I think all of these things that we've learned in the last maybe even 10 years have been pretty extraordinary as far as, wellness, self-awareness wellness, where we're taking care of ourselves. Bobby and I like to say that, we all have the ability to be our best doctors, our best teachers, our best guides. But it's about finding that sweet spot for you, the way of eating that works for you. But we all know what's bad for us. We're not stupid. We know that we shouldn't drink Diet Coke. Come on. Like, so somebody was like, well, what do I have to get? Come on. You know what you have to give up. Don't eat processed food. I'm sorry. You just can't. Now, you could do it once a week. Maybe you did it once a week. Maybe you had a piece of chocolate cake, or you need an Entenmann something, whatever somebody's weird thing is. But do that once in a while. Make that a treat. Don't make it a daily occurrence. You know what I mean? We've caught, now we're in this, I travel a lot. I'm sure a lot of you do. And you're in the airport and you see these people and they're in the line at Starbucks getting, God only knows what those drinks are. But why do we have to have one every day? I mean, you can have your cup of coffee every day, but do you really need a pumpkin spice latte every day? I don't know. It's about like we have no treats in our life anymore. When I was a kid, we didn't get dessert every night. We got dessert once a week. It was like a treat. We didn't go out to dinner every week either. We probably went out to dinner once a month. It was a treat. We don't have any treats anymore. I think that if we can kind of reel our lives back in so that we create these moments of joy that we can really splurge. And if you need to go out to fast food or dinner and have a crazy dessert, that becomes such a treat for you. But if you have it every day, it's really not that exciting. And then it's not good for you. But if you make things special, then they don't hurt you either. You know what I mean? Like if you drink that pumpkin spice latte, if you've got a habit, but you only do it once in a while and you really give yourself permission to do it, it doesn't have a bad effect on you. But if you do it all the time and it's unconscious, then you don't know what's going on.
Or you do it all the time and you beat yourself up and feel guilty for it.
Exactly.
I like that you said do it rarely. And then when you do it, really give yourself permission to enjoy it and do it. And that's your treat, because then at least you're not suffering from the hours of guilt and shame, which are so harmful to our bodies as well.
Oh my God. Unbelievable.
Yeah.
It's so hard on us.
I have this theory about treats, the daily, we're getting our daily coffee or our daily latte or all these, or we're choosing, foods that are hyper palatable. They're going to be super enjoyable while we're eating them, right? But we know it's not the healthiest food. And we do these things almost every day or maybe every day or multiple times a day. And I have this theory that when we have a big void in our life, that joy is missing, that self-care, time for us, and a sense of joy, when that is really lacking, we try to fill that void with these substances. They can be legal over-the-counter coffees or, prescriptions or, street drugs or alcohol. We're filling that void. And when we start to look at how to fill our lives with daily joy, true joy, then we find it's very easy to shift our habits and not do that daily latte or chocolate cake or wine at night.
Exactly. Well, and is that real joy? I mean, that's the question. Are you really joy? Is that joy, or is that a way to, I come from a family of addicts, brilliant people, amazing creatives. My grandfather, greatest writer of the 20th century. And, my sister was super talented. My father was incredibly brilliant. But they were addicts. But they were addicts because they were self-medicating pain. So you have to ask yourself, when you're doing those things, are you doing it because you really enjoy it, or are you doing it so you can avoid looking at something that needs to be looked at? And my thing is, we all have things that we have to look at all the time. It's never going to end until we're off the planet. And it's never as bad as we think it is in our head. You know what I mean? Our remembering a memory that is scary or going back into it seems frightening when you think about doing it. But when you actually do it, Memories can't hurt you. And things that you look at, it empowers you to dig deep. It empowers you and it frees you. I mean, I'm a perfect example of a life that has been freed by my ability and sometimes my struggle with not wanting to look, but then finally kind of coming through that whatever, to really look at who I've become and how I got here and the choices I made that are completely my own. And it was never as bad as I thought it would be. And it was actually freeing. So I can, I'm now at a time in my life that I can actually say, I love myself. And I could never say that years ago. Never. It was embarrassing. I thought that was arrogant. I thought it was weird to say that. I just didn't have that. I didn't have that knowledge. I didn't have that self-awareness. Now I realize that self-love is really just it's the most beautiful thing. It's so obvious because you can't love anybody else until you really love yourself, but you don't know that until you really have that moment where you go, oh my God, I did me. I'm okay. I may make some weird ass choices sometimes, and sometimes I fall off the wagon of self-awareness and self-love, but pretty much I really like who I've become. And that was a long journey. It probably didn't happen until my early 50s, really. And I have the relationship my relationship with my partner has helped me in that, having really good friends, and, grounding has brought a profound sense of self-awareness to me. And it's why I want to share all the things that I know.
Awesome. Well, I definitely want to dive into that. Did you have Hashimoto's, or was it just hypothyroid?
Hypothyroid, yeah.
Got it. So it wasn't autoimmune.
No, it was not. But now the interesting thing about that is all the autoimmune diseases are inflammatory based, and that's why grounding works so well. So it's curious that even though it's not autoimmune, grounding still helps my thyroid condition immensely.
That's exactly. I was going to go there because the grounding documentary, which was amazing, like just so eye-opening for me. And so many of my listeners in our Facebook group, the Learn to Health Facebook group, have talked about how just mind-blowing it was. And the whole documentary is posted, is pinned at the top in the Facebook group for everyone to watch. But that in it, they have scientists and they show that by grounding, we're releasing these electrons that we're supposed to release. We're not supposed to hold on to them like a battery, but we do because we're living now in this insulated world of carpet, and in our car, we're insulated, wearing shoes, we're insulated. We're not barefoot outside anymore all day long or sleeping on the ground like we were sort of designed to do. And we were designed to be connected to the earth. We're not connected. So we're actually holding on to this static electricity of electrons. And these loose electrons are free radicals that cause major inflammation and trigger a cascade of, like, a domino effect in the body on a cellular level of inflammation. And so the white blood cells can't work properly because this inflammation is just taking over, and they can't fully heal something because the inflammation is cascading into harming healthy tissue.
It's harming healthy tissue. And because we're grounded out by our rubber shoes and our carpet and all the list that you said, there's no way to release that overflow of inflammation.
Right.
It comes, there's all this electricity in the body, and there's no way. We're not releasing it. We're not. It hasn't become a cyclical thing. It's why the circadian rhythm is set back because we are grounded, and then we become more. It's going into the earth. It comes through us. It comes into the spine. It goes. We're meant to be. We're cyclical. We go in a. It's like DNA. It goes in a circle and it moves all the time. But we've stopped the movement, and that's why there's a buildup of inflammation.
It's like a dam. We created a dam to the natural flow of energy, and the dam is all the insulation around us. I mean, think about it. We're lying in a bed that's insulated, that's not grounded. We wake up, we walk on carpet that's insulated. And every time we move our feet on carpet, we're actually creating that static electricity inside us and collecting more and more electrons to store inside us, which are free radicals. Then we we get our clothes on, put our shoes on. Now we're insulated the entire day. We're in our car, we're insulated the entire day. We're in a building, office building or whatever.
Yeah.
And the only time we actually accidentally ground ourselves, one of my guests once said that we'd all be dead if it weren't for the fact that we have faucets, because we actually like wash our hands once in a while and that accidentally grounds us for like 30 seconds. Or we take a shower, get grounded a little bit because the faucet, every time we touch the faucet, that's grounded.
Yes. It's true.
5 seconds of being grounded a day is not enough to release all those electrons.
No, it's not enough.
If you have any static electricity, like you touch something and you get sparked, that means you have way too much of these electrons in your body. And that's a sure sign you need to go get barefoot out in nature or get a grounding mat.
I travel with mine. So when I get to, like, I had to go to Vegas. God only knows why I was there, but not my favorite place. I mean, just, in general. But it was like, what am I doing here? But I was on the top of this building, like the 27th floor, maybe 50th. I got up and I put my grounding mat, I plugged it in, I put it on top of the bed, and I just lie on the bed for, because there was no place to go because it was all like crazy outside and it was super hot or whatever, because it was a few weeks ago when it was still summery hot. And I lay on the bed and I could feel myself just like be okay. And when you sleep in a hotel, when you go to high, the rooms on high floors and hotel rooms, or you live in a New York City apartment, which, is great, but being high up, there's more inflammation, there's less connection. So it's so important to have a grounding, sleep mat or a mat, somewhere in your apartment or in your hotel room or something. Because when I travel and I'm on a high floor and I've got that grounded mat, I still sleep really well. I don't have any jet lag, or it goes within, I would say, within an hour. It's out of my system. I can see that I have no more swelling in my leg from like whatever flying, whatever the flight gave me or whatever. But it's astonishing how simple it is. And yet, we just didn't even realize it until Clint just, and he was so great and careful about doing 25 scientific studies so that people wouldn't think he was a total nut job, I mean, like it's crazy that we think that people that do simple things like eat real food and put your feet on the ground or get a grounding mat, if you can't do that, that's crazy. It's not crazy. We were doing it before the 50s or whenever the 20s and 30s, when rubber-soled shoes started to happen. We were doing it all the time. We were grounded all the time. Now we're grounded no time.
My mother-in-law, who's in her 70s, she grew up in Altadena, California, and her grandmother was from Germany, and her grandmother came over and was basically her nanny for her childhood. Every morning as the sun rose in Altadena, which is right beside Pasadena, California.
Mm-hmm. I know it.
Her grandmother would grab her hand, her little hand, and they'd be in their nightgowns, and she'd take her outside onto the grass. And they, for about a half an hour, would walk around the wet grass and the dew. Every morning it was like absolutely mandatory. And she fondly shares these memories with me of, being in the 40s or 50s or something, putting her feet, all the time in the grass, and that her grandmother from Germany, right, was passing on this knowledge of you wake up and you go with the first light of sun, you get out there. And now we know the science behind it. Now we know that reconnects us, our circadian rhythms. It resets our circadian rhythms to the earth to see the melatonin burns off when sunlight comes through our eyes, but it can't be interrupted by glass. And we have to go outside. And then going outside and grounding or earthing, we're releasing those electrons. We're connecting with the earth. And they're seeing now all the science. Like you said, Clint Ober has done all these studies, and science is now proving what our great-grandparents and great-great-grandparents did as a daily habit.
they did it as a daily habit, and they didn't even know, they didn't have a scientific reason behind it. They just knew intuitively that it was the right thing to do. Bobby and I wake up every morning, especially when we're in California. We have a little sandbox that we created. So it's outside and it's grounded. It's got sand in it. It's literally a sandbox for us, not for kids. But we sit there and we watch the sunrise, and we open our eyes and we look into the sun, because the sun in the morning and in the evening at sunset is sun that you can actually take into your eyes. And that's how you take in most of your vitamin D, is through your eyes. And people don't know that. And the science behind that is extraordinary. And some of our great leaders in America, I want to say Roosevelt was a sun gazer. I want to say Roosevelt. I hope that's right. But he was but believed in sun gazing and taking sunlight into the eyes. It's profound, and it helps your eyesight. It helps your memory. It's so incredible. And how simple is that? That doesn't cost money, but it's so important to do these things. Watching sunrises and sunsets, people don't realize why they do it. They do it because it actually makes them feel better. Yes, it's beautiful, but there's this attraction to the beauty, and there's an attraction to the energy that you get from that. I have an interesting story. A friend of mine who lives in the Pacific Northwest, where you do, he lives in Portland, and he was on Instagram, and I was posting something, and I saw his story, and he was like, he had this video up, and he was so depressed, and he was like near tears, and I immediately direct messaged him, and I was like, "Are you okay?" I got him on the phone. I was talking to him. He said, I feel horrible. I'm so depressed. It was in the winter. I think it was February. And he said, I'm a mess. I don't know what to do. And I said, oh my God, well, here, I promise you I'm not a doctor, and I'm just going to make some suggestions. And he said, well, I actually would listen to you. Not sure why, but I will. And I said, look, I want you to go outside. I know it's probably raining there, but I can see on my iPhone in the weather that you've got a pocket of sun. I want you to go outside. I want you to take your shoes off, even if it's on the sidewalk. If it's the sidewalk and it's cement and it's slightly damp, you can ground. I want you to take your shoes off and get your feet on the ground. And I also want you to look up to the sun. And I just want you to take some deep breaths and just spend at least a half an hour outside in the air, grounding and looking at the sun. And I sort of said it just because he sounded so depressed, I was just hoping he'd be okay. And he contacted me an hour later, and he said, I swear to God, I feel like this is a miracle, because I feel like a totally different person. And I didn't even realize it would be that effective.
Yes.
So that's real to me. I was like, oh my God, this is great. I was super happy for him, but I was also like, this is real. This is real.
I love it. I'm racking my brain for why would your hypothyroid that's not caused by an autoimmune condition, why would hypothyroid be helped by grounding? And one thing I thought was really interesting, I'm taking an advanced course for health coaching through functional diagnostic nutrition. I interviewed their founder recently and joined their course, and it's fascinating. And one thing I learned, and it just blows me away, is that 25% of our T3 is converted in the gut. And when we have dysbiosis or we have inflammation in our gut, or we maybe have some leaky gut, or we're maybe eating foods we don't realize that our IgG response, like the immunoglobulin response, is reacting to. So any of these things can put the gut in a state of metabolic chaos. And through that, then we convert less of our T3. So we go to a doctor and we tell them we're tired, and they just immediately go, oh, let's check your thyroid. Oh, you have low T3. Let's just give you some T3. Meanwhile, the root cause, they never looked where the root cause was. And so if you so you're not grounded, and maybe your body's weak point is your gut, and maybe you ate
Yep.
something you were sensitive to. Like for me, I discovered I was allergic to bananas. I mean, bananas of all things, right? But for me, bananas gave me huge amounts of inflammation. It's so sad. I love bananas, but when I don't eat them, I feel amazing. When I do eat them, I should not eat them. It is an allergy.
Yeah, and I think, I don't think that I actually absorbed the minerals needed out of my food, or I didn't for many years. And what I think is when you have less of an inflammation in the gut, you absorb minerals, you absorb nutrients.
Mm-hmm. So there you were, you had inflammation because by grounding, you're releasing the inflammation. And then all of a sudden you now are on half the medication you needed, and you're working towards having a totally healthy thyroid, which is phenomenal. How quickly did you see results from grounding for your thyroid? Was it like weeks, months, years?
Within 6 weeks, I realized that I could bring it down. I actually called Clint. I was like, wait. And he was like, oh, you're on thyroid. I don't know how it came up. He said, you're on thyroid. And I said, yeah, I'm not on Synthroid. I don't believe in that. I mean, whatever. He said, well, why don't you try like just taking it down a little bit? Don't do it, cold turkey, take it out completely. And I said, yeah, I could do that. And it just was fine. It was within 6 weeks though. I mean, that's how quickly the body responds to having no inflammation though.
Mm-hmm.
It's crazy.
I'd love to hear the story of how you met Clint Ober. Obviously, your partner, Bobby Williams, converted you to grounding, to walking outside barefoot, which does sound painful if you're like hiking in the mountains. I got to admit, I do a lot of grounding in my own backyard on the grass. I've had some listeners say that they live in metropolitan areas where all the grass is covered in pesticides.
Yeah.
I had one listener say that she was so excited to do grounding, went outside, started running around the grass, and she got really sick because her body couldn't process the toxins of everything that was sprayed on the grass, and was really kind of discouraged and disappointed, and thought, how many people want to ground, but that they don't have access to like a clean yard that they know it hasn't been sprayed.
Right.
Luckily, you have your sandbox, right? Or for those who just cannot get out there and for half an hour to an hour a day in the grass on healthy, clean, non-pesticide-free yard and grass, or out there in the mountains, that they could absolutely benefit from grounding through these mats. But I'd love to know, can you tell us the story of how you met Clint Ober?
Well, my really good friends are Josh and Rebecca Tickell, who made the movie. So Rebecca is in the movie, and she's talking about her daughter who was very sick, and she's the one who had the complete transformation, lost 90 pounds or something. In the movie, she says 70. Now it's 90 through grounding by lying on the ground naked. That's a whole other conversation you have to have with her. But she's a really good friend, and they called me. I had made I've done a couple of projects and supported projects with them. They really great environmental filmmakers. And then they did a kind of a fictional movie, a scripted movie, that I was also in. And then they called me out of the blue and they said, oh my God, we just realized we're doing this film. We just realized you and Bobby are the perfect people to be in this. It's about earthing. So that's how I met Clint. I met him, after filming that, and we were at a screening of it, and I was super honored. I met him in Sedona, and I was like, you're cool. You're cool. I want to hang out with you. Teach me all you know.
That's how I feel about him too. We had a great interview, and I was a little gobsmacked. He's very down to earth, no ego, really cool. And he has what a story. I love his story. For any listener who hasn't listened to that, go back and listen to my interview with Clint Ober. So tell us the day. I'd love for you to just walk us through the first day they gave you. Did Clint hand you a grounding mat, or like ceremonially, like on one knee, like, oh, here's your grounding mat?
No, not at all. Not at all. He was just like, we all went out to dinner after seeing the movie, and we did a panel on the stage and stuff. And then afterwards he goes, come to my car. I was like, ooh.
I gave it out of the trunk.
Weird.
Come check out
All
what's in
right.
my trunk.
And then, yeah. And then he did. He's like, opened the trunk and he's like handing me like blankets and grounding mats. And I was like, oh my God, I'm so excited. I'm, because I hadn't slept grounded yet. And I was super excited to do that. And, I'd been grounding for quite a while at that point, but never sleeping. And boy, that was a real shift. And the grounding mats are so reasonable. Like, it wasn't like, oh God, get a grounding mat. It's $8 million. It's not expensive. $129 for a single grounded sleep mat. And so I became so excited by his mission in life. And it really is a mission. He's dedicated his life to helping people understand how inflammation is really causing so many problems, especially for women. Women are just more responsive. Women are usually the ones that get parents help. When you think about older people and the fact that they need grounding so much more than we realize, grounding will help with arthritis. It will just help with things that are inflammatory based. So I got so excited that I said, I want to do a magazine for you. And so I've created a magazine that we're going to launch pretty soon called MH Your Thing. MH being Mariel Hemingway, but it's not because I own it. But then we've got a little pamphlet kind of on the inside that shows all the ailments that are affected and helped by earthing. And of course, we're not doctors. We're not saying that it cures anything, but if it's inflammatory, which pretty much everything is, it will be affected by this. And just through people's stories, sharing their stories with us at the magazine, because we want to, we want to turn it into a movement.
So you're going to create a grounding magazine, like an earthing magazine?
Yeah, it's called MH Your Thing.
I love it.
Yeah, it's really cool. It was so much fun to do. It was like, oh my God, this is great. I called my friends. Please write an article about this. I want you to dedicate yourself to earthing for the next bit. And my best friend Melissa, she wrote an article, and she was so tentative. She was like, I don't know if I'm going to take my shoes off. I'm super scared, but she goes out into the soccer field in her neighborhood, and now she walks every day, and she looks forward to it because she's shifted. She feels differently, and she's got her whole family doing it. It's just cool stuff because it's easy. It's just so easy. It's so simple. And when your brain gets it, you're just like, I can't go back. I can't go back to not doing this.
I'd love to hear, so that night you're in Sedona, it's dark outside, and it gets so dark out there, and you can see the stars. It's so beautiful. The crickets are singing, and he opens his trunk and hands you everything and says, try my stuff. So you went back to your hotel room. Tell us about your first experience with the grounding mats and blankets and all that.
So he didn't have a lot of stuff, and so Bobby and I, we are very competitive and we fight over everything. So he was like, who's getting the grounding mat? I'm like, well, I think that I had my hands on it first. He got the blanket, I got the grounding mat. Anyway, and we, plugged him, we read the thing and plugged him in, and I just remember having a very deep and uninterrupted sleep, which doesn't always happen, and hadn't happened in quite some time. And it was wonderful. Bobby slept really well. It was just great. It just made sense. Now I've gotten extra blankets that I put on the dog beds, and I have a 19-year-old Yorkie who's amazing. And it's so funny, when he sleeps in my room, and he makes so much noise because he's old, and he sounds like he's snoring. And ever since being on the grounding mat, which is now 7 months, he makes no sound when he sleeps. Not a sound.
Wow.
And he has so much, he's 20 years old. I'm telling you, he has so much energy. He hikes with me every day when we go out and he likes the barefoot hiking because it slows me down so he can keep up, because he's getting a little old. He doesn't see too well. But I'm telling you, like and the animals during the day, you'll see them all on the grounding mat on top in the kitchen. Like they're all sitting there. It's the cutest thing. They get it because they
Yes.
love it. That's how they live. That's what makes animals healthy, is the fact that they're connected to the earth.
Yes, we have an old cat, and we plugged in the grounding mat for my feet by the computer. And he immediately sat on it. He's got his, routine. He's like 5 different places he likes sitting, but he just immediately sat there, and he always comes back to it. And I also have a leg rest. And I kick my feet up sometimes when I'm at the computer, and like lean back in my chair, and I put the mat up on that, and he was like, "Where's my mat?" And then he realized it was on the chair, on the footrest, and so he jumped up, and we do not both fit. Like my feet, it's a very small footrest. My legs and him don't fit, and so he like subtly just uses his weight to like push my legs off so he can have the mat. So I think I need to get another one just for him. But the animals get it.
Oh yeah. They get it.
He was hobbling. So he's like 16. I was suspecting he had arthritis because he wasn't jumping up on things anymore. It looked like he was limping as he walked. He also has kidney disease. And the vet was like, okay, well, if we take really good care of him, he could live like another 3-4 years. But these things can just all of a sudden turn for the worst, and he could be gone really soon. So, we've just got to be careful. Well, we monitor his urinary output and stuff like that, obviously, because we changed the kitty litter. And after he started grounding, I noticed he was running. He was jumping on stuff, and he lost. And he had about, and this is big for a cat, he was 20 pounds, but a great amount of that was water weight because of the kidney disease. He just had a lot of water weight. He looks like a completely different cat now. He looks like he actually has like, he has like curves. He has lost a significant amount of that water weight, and he is jumping. He is like he has so much energy.
Oh, that's so cool.
It's so cool. And I'm looking forward to, I'm going to take him back soon and do the blood test and see how his kidney disease is. 'Cause I bet that it's actually gotten better. And the vet was like, and he's a holistic vet, but he's like, this thing just never gets better. You can slow down the progression, but it doesn't get better. And I'm thinking with grounding, obviously, and he's eating the healthiest food we could find, and we're like a non-toxic family. We don't have any toxic cleaners in the house. Like, we're really cautious about the level of toxicity inside the home because, indoor air pollution can be 20 times worse as outdoor, just from having the cleaning products and the off-gassing of the things in our environment. So we're really cautious of that. But like I said, he started grounding, and he is like a new cat. It is amazing. And so many people would say like, oh, $100 for a mat for my bed, that's way too expensive. But then if you're like, well, there's a grounding mat for your dog, they're like, no problem. Like we will always put our pets before us.
I know.
So do it for your pets.
But it's because we are animals.
Yeah.
We are animals. We remember. Oh, and they rely on us. They're so happy. It's so easy to just make them feel better. Isn't that crazy? I know. My little 20-year-old Yorkie, he doesn't ache. He doesn't make sound when he sleeps. And I have a border collie who has hip problems. When he sleeps on the grounding mat, he doesn't hobble at all. And he's like 12 years old.
That's awesome. Very cool. Can you said that a lot of your friends, because you were doing this magazine, that a lot of your friends were introduced to grounding, to earthing through you, and that they got to share their stories of success. Do you have any stories that really stand out in your mind that you'd love to share with us? I
shared the one about the guy in Portland. That was really profound for me, how important that was. I love the woman that's in the documentary, the old woman who's like 94, who's playing tennis now. She blows my mind. I think for most people, it's just a level of energy. It's about sleeping. It's not like profound. Because I don't know anybody with MS, but the girl in the documentary with MS, she just, every time I see her, and I've seen the documentary several times now, and she brings a tear to my eye because she just looks forward to living life. And I have I do have a friend with MS that I haven't seen in quite a few months, and I'm going to reconnect. I've reconnected with her husband because I really want him to, get her a mat, and because I do believe that it will change her life.
Yeah, they showed that woman who was in a wheelchair, and they just put the patches on her. So if someone doesn't want to use the grounding mat, they can use the patches.
Yeah, there's so many options.
Right. And some doctors that listen to the show reached out to me. We talked to them. One's a chiropractor in Canada. And we talked about these patch kits, like you can put them on your patient and that's plugged into the ground. And then you do it for however long you can. Like, because people ask, how long should I do it? I'm like, however long you can. 15 minutes, an hour, 10 hours, like however long you.
I am reminded of a story with my best friend. We were sitting, she came over and we were doing some business. She's also my manager. She was sitting there and she was wiggling her finger and she said, "Oh, this finger really hurts. It's been hurting a lot lately." She says, "I think I might have arthritis in it." And I said, "Well," so I went and got a patch kit and I put the sticky patch on her finger. And we just sat there talking and she was writing stuff. And she looked down 20 minutes later and she said, "It doesn't hurt at all anymore." Mm-hmm. So, I mean, that's the beauty. You get rid of inflammation, there is no pain. And Clint talks about that all the time. Even if you're not going to walk in a yard, sitting in a chair, you're going to feel yourself be relieved of that buildup of electrons. You're going to feel that inflammation just flowing out of the body.
Yes.
So it's pretty cool.
It is very cool. This has been so amazing sharing these stories with you today and your wisdom around how we can implement these strategies, even as super busy people. I feel so honored to have you here today and have you share everything. We're going to make sure that everything that you do, all the links to everything you do, your books and everything's in the show notes of today's podcast at learntruehealth.com. Mariel, do you have any homework you want to pass on to the listeners before wrapping up today's interview?
Well, yes. First of all, I would say, find somebody that you love and that loves you, that you care about, that you feel safe with, and tell your story. Like however it is. You don't have to go on a podcast. You don't have to go do a television show or anything, but tell your story. I think for any of you that need to sort of release any anxiety about where you come from. That's number one. I would say take some time to be still. I don't want to call it meditation because that's scary for people, but take some time, whether it's on the potty, as you say, but take some time for yourself that you're in total silence and just honoring yourself and giving yourself permission to be still and not judging that time that you take. And also drink good water. Drink water. Just drink more water. And also, one more thing, and probably the most important thing, go outside. Put your feet on the ground, in the grass, on some soil. Just do it. Do it once a day if you can. And if you can't, buy a grounding mat. Do something, because I'm telling you, it will change your life.
I love it. Thank you so much, Mariel Hemingway. It has been such an honor having you here today. You're welcome back on the show any time to come share with us.
Oh, thank you so much. It was so much fun. Oh my gosh.
Are you looking to get the best supplements at the lowest price? For high quality supplements and to talk to someone about what supplements are best for you, go to takeyoursupplements.com. And one of our fantastic True Health coaches will help you pick out the right supplements for you that are the highest quality and the best price. That's takeyoursupplements.com. Takeyoursupplements.com. That's takeyoursupplements.com. Be sure to ask about free shipping and our awesome referral program. Hello, True Health Seeker. Have you ever thought about becoming a health coach? Do you love learning about nutrition and how we can shift our lifestyle and our diet so that we can gain optimal health and happiness and longevity? Do you love helping your friends and family to solve their health problems and to figure out what they can do to eat healthier? Are you interested in becoming someone who can grow their own business, support people in their success? Do you love helping people? You might be the perfect candidate to become a health coach. I highly recommend checking out the Institute for Integrative Nutrition. I just spent the last year in their health coaching certification program, and it really blew me away. It was so amazing. I learned over 100 dietary theories. I learned all about nutrition, but from a standpoint of how we can help people to shift their life and shift their lifestyle to gain true holistic health. I definitely recommend you check them out. You can Google Institute for Integrative Nutrition or IIN and give them a call, or you can go to learntruehealth.com/coach and you can receive a free module of their training to check it out and see if it's something that you'd be interested in. Be sure to mention my name, Ashley James, and the Learn True Health podcast, because I made a deal with them that they will give you the best price possible. I highly recommend checking it out. It really changed my life to be in their program, and I'm such a big advocate that I wanted to spread this information. We need more health coaches. In fact, health coaching is the largest growing career right now in the health field. So many health coaches are getting in and helping people, because you can work in chiropractic offices, doctors' offices, you can work in hospitals, you can work online through Skype and help people around the world. You can become an author. You can go into the school system and help your local schools shift their programs to help children be healthier. You can go into senior centers and help them to shift their diet and lifestyle to best support them in their success and their health goals. There's so many different available options for you when you become a certified health coach. So check out IIN, check out the Institute for Integrative Nutrition, mention my name, get the best deal. Give them a call and they'll give you lots of free information and help you to see if this is the right move for you. Classes are starting soon. The next round of classes are starting at the end of the month. So you're going to want to call them now and check it out. And if you know anyone in your life who would be an amazing coach, please tell them about it. Being a health coach is so rewarding and you get to help so many people.